Korea threatens to take all possible measures to ensure Pyongyang pays for its actions in nuclear testing after the North allegedly carries out a hydrogen bomb test. Former U.S. Special Envoy to the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, Martin Indyk, says that Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was the leader of the Israeli opposition, expressed regret at assassinated Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's funeral that he was murdered, since it would turn him into a national hero. And in the U.S., Republicans strongly condemn President Obama's executive gun control measures. Good afternoon. South Korea said today it would take all possible measures, including potential UN sanctions, to ensure Pyongyang pays the price following its fourth nuclear test, the latest in which the rogue state claimed it tested a hydrogen bomb.
Our government strongly condemns North Korea ignoring repeated warnings from us and the international community and pushing ahead with the fourth nuclear test, which clearly violated the UN resolutions. We will take all possible measures, including further United Nations sanctions, by closely cooperating with the international community, including our allies and countries of the six-party talks, so that North Korea will pay the price for the nuclear test.
And in other news, in a PBS documentary, former U.S. Special Envoy to the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, Martin Indyk, said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed disappointment during assassinated Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's funeral back in 1995, that his murder would turn him into a national hero. In the Frontline film, Indyk remembers sitting next to Netanyahu at the funeral when Netanyahu said to him, quote, "Look at this. He's a hero now. But if he had not been assassinated, I would have beaten him in the elections," end quote. For his part, Netanyahu, who was the opposition leader at the time, denies the claims. And joining us now is I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good afternoon, Tal.
Hi, good afternoon, Meredith.
So 20 years on, this is clearly still a touchy subject. What can we make of Indyk's statements in the documentary?
Well, I think that the whole documentary under the title Netanyahu's Wars was probably not what the Israeli Prime Minister was hoping for. The American audience is a audience that matters very much to Netanyahu. He gives much significance to the American audience, and Indyk for years has not hidden his animosity towards Netanyahu. As he said, Netanyahu himself hit back. The Prime Minister's office issued a clear and strong denouncement of the remarks and denial of the remarks. They say that the comments were totally fabricated. But also the Likud party issues a statement calling Martin Indyk a liar and saying that he never stopped defaming Netanyahu. On the other side of the political spectrum, we hear the Zionist Union release a statement saying that the Indyk comments show how low Netanyahu can Netanyahu go, and they say that nothing has changed since 20 years ago, that Netanyahu only cares about his own personal interests and not about the state of Israel. But this is, of course, a scar in Netanyahu's past, actually one that the Frontline documentary dedicated quite a significant portion to, his involvement or any implication in his involvement in the incitement that led to the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, and Netanyahu is very quick to try and brush off any criticism of this sort. We do know that the former Yitzhak Rabin, the wife, the late wife of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, Leah Rabin, she publicly said that Netanyahu and the Likud party were responsible for the assassination, and since then Netanyahu has been trying to brush off this criticism and to brush off any implication that he could have with the assassination.
Tal Shalev, thank you for joining us with these updates. And staying with Israel, Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon has given the green light to expand the West Bank Etzion settlement block south of Jerusalem to include a compound Israelis hope to turn into a new settlement. If populated, the compound would help establish an Israeli corridor stretching from Jerusalem to Hebron, which critics say could further hinder the creation of a Palestinian state in the West Bank as part of a two-state peace deal. And moving now to the U.S., where in an emotional address, U.S. President Barack Obama unveiled new gun restrictions yesterday, saying, quote, "The constant excuses for inaction must stop." His executive actions without congressional approval brought in background checks on potential buyers. But many in the country, especially Republicans, are outraged, calling it overreach. ABC News has more.
Tonight, the president making headlines for more than his controversial move, but his tears as well.
And from every family who never imagined that their loved one would be taken from our lives by a bullet from a gun. Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad.
Those children, the victims of Sandy Hook. And behind the president today, families of victims from countless shooting rampages. He remembers them all, and the daily carnage as well.
And by the way, it happens on the streets of Chicago every day.
When the tear was coming down his face, and what did you think when you saw that?
I thought that was authentic. I think he's met his fair share of survivors like us.
But his tears drawing fire too. Today, Mr. Obama taking executive action on his own, narrowing the loophole that allows weapons to be bought without a background check at gun shows and online, hiring more agents to conduct background checks, and asking Congress for $500 million to provide better access to mental health services. But opponents were equally determined. The National Rifle Association issued a statement saying the proposals would not have prevented any of the horrific events he mentioned. And GOP presidential candidates were denouncing the president's actions.
President Obama's executive actions limiting gun rights will restrict our law-abiding citizens.
These orders today, I believe, are not worth the paper they are written on.
If there's an issue related to federal gun laws, then you ought to go to Congress and try to forge consensus to make it happen. He doesn't have this power.
And we move now to Bangladesh, where the highest court has upheld the death sentence for the leader of the country's largest Islamic party, named as Motir Rahman Nizami. He was appealing against last year's conviction for war crimes committed during the 1971 independence war against Pakistan. 72-year-old Nizami is accused of aiding the Pakistani army in identifying and killing pro-independence activists. He has also been convicted on charges including murder, torture, genocide, and rape. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters filled the streets in the German city of Cologne last night over sexual assaults and thefts carried out on New Year's Eve by groups of men who, according to witnesses and police, were of Arab appearance. The I-24 News Desk with the details.
Some 150 mostly female protesters gathered in Cologne on Tuesday night to denounce violence against women, 5 days after about 90 women reported being robbed, threatened or sexually molested at New Year's celebrations outside Cologne's main train station and cathedral.
What happened here is terrible, but at the same time, not everybody who's here in this square should be incriminated. That's not acceptable either. The perpetrators must be caught and brought to justice. Measures must be taken, and we should show solidarity among each other, men, women, foreigners, against violence.
The incidents have heated up the debate over the record number of refugees, many arriving from Syria in the past year. Germany took in just over 1 million refugees last year, far more than any other European country. Cologne city officials said they were working on measures to avoid a repeat of the mass attacks, ranging from groping to at least one reported rape.
This morning, we developed measures together with the aim to never ever see such incidents here again. That's very, very important to us. But it is equally important that we will not have our carnival celebrations taken from us by such incidents.
Police said they didn't yet have any clues into who was behind the attack.
So far, we have no suspects, meaning that we don't know who the assailants are. The only thing we know is that the police officer on site witnessed that there were mostly young men involved, aged between 18 and 35, who originate from North Africa, the Arab world. The statement corresponds with the testimonies from the victims. They too described the potential perpetrators exactly like that.
German leaders have expressed shock over the dozens of apparently coordinated sexual assaults, but warned against anti-migrant scapegoating. Chancellor Angela Merkel has called for a thorough investigation of what she described as disgusting attacks.
And these were the latest headlines. Join us again in 20 minutes' time for the latest breaking news. For anything you may have missed, you can check our website, i24news.tv. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you for watching.